This video is about simple interest. And simple interest is called simple interest because it's the most simple version of calculating interest. When banks and loans do interest, they actually do a more complicated one called compound interest. But let's start with simple interest because that's going to be the easiest for us to do. And so simple interest has a formula called I equals PRT. And I is the interest. That's the amount of money that you make or pay for somebody to borrow or loan you money. And P is the principal. And that is the amount of money you are borrowing or loaning or starting with or putting in the savings account. That is the starting amount. R is the rate as a decimal. And T is time in years. So I is interest. That's the amount of money you make. Principal, rate, and time. So let's take a look at how to solve this. So how much would your ending balance be? So we want to know ending balance. If I invested, let's say, $3,000 at 7% interest for 5 years. And so my ending balance would be calculated by first finding out how much interest. So our principal amount is $3,000. Our rate is 7 as a decimal would be 7%, and the time is 5. So our interest is 3,000 times 0.07 times 5, which is $1,050. So this is our interest. Now that seems like a lot of money, and it is. 7% interest is pretty good, and leaving it in there for 5 years is quite a bit. And now we need to know our ending balance. Well, our ending balance is our principal plus our interest. So in this case, $4,050. Now you have to be really careful. Are they asking you for your interest or your ending balance? So that's the real careful thing you need to do. Now let's say I want to figure out this problem again, but I want to know how much interest I will make if I invest at 3% for 12 years. I invest, let's say, $2,000. Well, we know that interest is equal to principal times the rate as a decimal times the years, the time in years. And this time they asked just for the interest, and so I don't need to add it to my principal amount. So that's careful that we do that. We make sure that we understand that our interest of $720 is not going to be added back to the principal amount because the question was how much interest do we make? So this time the answer is $720. If it had asked for ending balance, we would have added it to the $2,000. Okay, let's take it up a different notch. We know our formula is I equals PRT. And so what if I say, what rate do I need to earn if I want to make $500 and I want to invest meaning my principal amount, of, let's say, $7,000, and I'm going to leave it in there for 4 years. What interest rate do I need to look for to get that? Well, if I want to make $500 interest, that is the I. The principal is $7,000, and the rate is R, and the time is 4. That means if I divide by 7,000 and I divide by 4, then what I can do is figure out what R is. And R then is 500 divided by parentheses 7,000 times 4. Now that has to be in parentheses. Oops, 500, I got that. 500 divided by parentheses 7,000 times 4. So I get my interest rate needs to be 0.01785. So I need about a 1.8% interest rate. So that's what I would need to look for if I wanted to make $500 on my investment. That's really how easy it is. So let's take a look at another example. So we remember I equals PRT. And yes, this is a formula that you need to have memorized. That's an ugly T, but you know it's a T. I equals PRT. And so let's say I know that my bank will give me 3%. I need to make $720 for some reason. And I need to make that in, let's say, 3 years. How much principal do I need to put in? Well, that's $720 for the interest. Principal, I don't know, so I'm going to leave that as P times 0.03 times 3 years. I'm going to divide by 0.03 times 3. And remember, that's in parentheses underneath there. And I get P is equal to 720 divided by 0.03 times 3. And so I can do that on my calculator. So I get 720 divided by, open parentheses, 0.03 times 3, close parentheses. And so I get that I need to invest $8,000. So if I invest $8,000 at 3% for 3 years, I'll make $720. And really, that is the interest equation. So that's all we have to do. And we can figure out any of these variables that we're missing just by dividing. And the key thing is right here, when we divide, we need to remember to divide in parentheses. That's the big deal.